Hello, everyone. It is Jawa James here with another episode of James Reads from a Star Wars book. This time, in honor of the release of Maul Lockdown by Joe Schreiber, I'm going to be reading an excerpt from Death Troopers. Let's dive in, see what happens. This is an example of horror in the Star Wars galaxy. We'll see what lurks aboard the prison barge Purge. It took a long time to find the turbolifts up from main detention. Most of the bodies they ran across were like the inmates on his level. Corpses in bunks, corpses on floors, corpses curled up in corners, arms already stiffening around their folded knees as if somehow balling themselves up could stave off the eventuality of death. There were suicides. One inmate had hung himself from the bars, another had wrapped a bag around his head. Dead guards and stormtroopers lay on the floor, while puzzled-looking maintenance droids hovered over them, trying to make sense of the mass carnage, picking them up and putting them down again. Kale collected blasters from two of the bodies, but Trig could tell just by the way he carried them that he wasn't entirely comfortable with the weapons, although he tried to act casual about it. They saw other things as well. Outside one cell, a dead guard lay with his back against the bars. Trig saw that he'd been tied by the wrists and around the neck by the two dead inmates inside the cell. The inmates had since died of the disease, but that hadn't been what killed the guard. The Khans had somehow lured him close enough to bind him there and then tortured him to death, stabbing, slashing, and mutilating him with crude, sharpened instruments that were still clutched in their dead hands. They saw an inmate, an alien species that Trig didn't recognize, comprising two conjoined bodies, one twice the size of the other. The smaller body had already died and fallen limp, while the larger one cradled it weakly like its own child, weeping and trying to breathe. It didn't even look up at them as they walked by. They saw a maintenance droid, carrying on a cheerful one-sided conversation with the dead stormtrooper. They saw two Imperial guards slumped dead over a Dejarik holochess table, while the figures on the table lumbered aimlessly around the board, awaiting instruction. Finally, they found a turbolift and waited for the hatchway to slide open. There was a pair of dead guards inside, both of them armed, slouched in opposite corners, their torsos torn apart and scorched by blaster bolts, as if, in the final throes of delirium, they had turned against each other. Kale hoisted them by their biohazard suits and dragged them out of the lift, and Trig was glad his brother didn't ask him to help. Looking at the bodies was one thing, but touching them, lifting them up, hoisting their dead weight, that wasn't something he felt prepared for. What if one of their cold dead hands was to reach up and grab a hold of him? Would he even be able to scream? There was a clicking sound behind them, and Trig glanced back over his shoulder. He thought about Miss in the cell next to theirs, the cell that had been empty when he looked. Miss must have run out after Wembley had sprung open the doors for them. Did that mean Miss was immune too? Trig wondered if he was following them. Just because he didn't see anything didn't mean it wasn't there. On the uppermost level of detention, they heard a faint mewling sound like something crying. It was plaintive and childlike, with the despondency all the more resonant to Trig because he recognized it in his own heart. He stopped and looked in the direction of the noise. You hear that? All right, that was a section from Death Troopers by Joe Schreiber. You can check out his books in the Star Wars series. There's Death Troopers. There's also Red Harvest, which is a prequel to Death Troopers. And now his new one, which is Maul Lockdown, which is about Darth Maul. And he has to go to infiltrate a prison under Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious's orders. It is plenty of fun, and I'll be reading from it soon. All right, catch you guys next time.